So I'm Teddy. This is our boat Argo. She's Contest 40 from 1978. She's the first hull of the boat, the line, which is pretty cool. And I don't think there were very many of them made, so she's quite unique.
Hey, I'm Geza. I'm 29, and yeah, I joined this boat a few months ago, and I'm enjoying it very much. I really like the simplicity of this boat.
Well, when I was 7 years old, my parents sent me off for a month of summer camp. And then I went every year until I guess I was 16 years old, and sailing was a big part of that. Um, my mom's brother was really into sailing, so he also had a big influence on me with that.
Yeah, I kind of grew up like I come from a family of sailors. My grandparents were sailors. My dad's a sailor. He's more into regatta sailing, which I wasn't so much into, but then I started traveling and I was hitchhiking a lot, and then someone told me that I can hitchhike on sailboats, so I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I could do that, and yeah, I enjoy cruising much more than racing, and it's a lot of fun.
I left from Amsterdam on July 6th, exactly 5 years after I arrived in Amsterdam. So, ow, so fine. Relax.
I started traveling in May last year as well, so 2019, and I started sailing around September.
From like an early age, my parents always encouraged me to just, if I had an idea, to go for it. They definitely indulged and maybe overindulged my stupid hobbies or things like that. I've always kind of had this fearlessness of doing what I got in my head to do, and sitting at a desk just wasn't really what I felt I wanted to be doing. So the idea that you could sail around the world in, as much as a cost of a car was mind blowing to me. I remember I was in Italy with my mom. I said, I've been thinking about buying a sailboat and sailing around the world. And she's like, well, okay, let's sit down and figure out how much it's going to cost. What is your budget? How are you going to achieve that? So that helped. That they were my mom was really supportive of that.
Yeah, I started traveling. Yeah, this is Mabel, by the way. A while back, and I just wanted to take some time off and not work, and just spend some time exploring and making new experiences and learning new things. And yeah, I came across sailing, and people say it's addictive, and there's definitely something about it.
Well, there's a few different ways that I support sailing. Um, I guess first is the pretty standard way. So I saved up money by trying to eat out as little as possible. When I was in high school, I started getting into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in particular. It gave me a nest egg to work with. And I work, yeah. So I work about 20 hours a week as well in software, which is really nice because this is the best office that I've ever had. So
I just saved up money as well. I started working after graduating from university, but my lifestyle didn't really change, so it just didn't really take me a lot of effort to save up money. And after a while, I didn't really see the point of going back to work. Luckily, I don't own this boat because I definitely didn't save up enough money to be able to support that.
Well, obviously, boat hitchhiking has worked for me because that's how I met Geza, although not necessarily as a boat hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Um, I've had boat hitchhikers before and they were perfectly pleasant.
Well, I mean, it's worked out pretty well for me, the boat hitchhiking. I've had mixed experiences as well, so everyone who attempts to do it, I can only advise take your time to get to know the people that you get on a boat with, because once you're out on the sea, there's no running away. So you want to make sure that you're a good match. But if you find people that you're a good match with, it can be really awesome.
Once I was sailing from Gibraltar to Spain. I was sailing downwind by myself, and you know, the way that you sleep while single handing is, at least the way that I do it, is that I'll try and sleep for 30 minutes and then wake up and check everything outside or be sleeping in the cockpit. Look up and you're just constantly falling asleep and waking up. It's like that feeling like when you fall asleep in school and you wake up really quickly and your knee hits the bottom of the desk. That's basically what happens for 3 days straight. So I find myself caught with 35 knots of wind with my full sails up, running downwind, wing on wing. And I thought, all right, well, I need to get this jib sail or this Genoa sail down. And I decided, okay, well, I'll just pull it over with the other sheet. So I started tightening the lazy sheet and loosening the working sheet. And of course, the sail just wrapped around the stay. The boat started, then it backwinded what was left out and started ripping itself apart on the forestay. It's not a roller furler, so they're just hanked on, but it was wrapped so tightly that I couldn't pull it down. The boat is going in circles, and I think I made 3 turns thinking like, okay, this is where my boat sinks. Probably should get the EPIRB out. I always remember this advice from a book called Sailing Alone Together. And when the guy says, when you're sailing solo, you things have to be done quickly, but you should stop and first spend some time to think about what it is you actually need to do. So I sat down and I looked at it and just sort of gathered my wits about me, and I put on my harness with a short tether on it and clipped myself to the forestay and climbed up the forestay, pulled the jib sail down from the point where it was wrapped, and got the boat back on course. And yeah, well, ruined a nice head sail, but the boat continued on, and now I'm still here, still sailing the boat, so that was scary.
If something goes wrong, it always goes wrong in the most unpleasant situations. I remember that in the middle of the Atlantic, I took a shower, as in I took a bucket of water and like poured it over me, and then in that moment the autopilot stopped working. So I ended up being on the helm naked for quite a while my captain was trying to figure out the autopilot problem. Yeah, that was a memorable moment.
I guess it's a run-of-the-mill existential dread of doing something that you don't know or you don't really understand, because if anyone tells you that they understand what cruising is like without actually having done it, they're lying. Even watching all those Delos videos, I had no idea. I mean, it's just like anything in life, like moving to a new city, starting a new job, or going into a new field. You just need to have the confidence that maybe not everything is going to go right, but it's not going to go completely irreversibly wrong. Like, if you decide you want to start cruising and then you find out you don't actually like it, you may be out some money, but that's not the end of the world. You can go back to living in the same place you were before. We're so, just as people, afraid to do things that require us to step outside of our comfort zone. It ends up leaving people with a lot of questions and doubts and things like that. Um, you know, for me, particularly, I grew up. My dad was he was a fisherman. He was a lawyer, but in his heart, he was a fisherman. And his dream was to one day retire to a house in the Bahamas, where he could fish all day. Unfortunately, when he was in his 50s, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and within a year, he was dead. And I'd like to imagine that he would be happy that I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone and trying to do things that I never expected or imagined I would be able to do. So,
from a hitchhiker's perspective, I think my biggest doubt was always, as I said before, getting on a boat with someone that I end up not liking, or being in an awkward situation, or realizing that my captain has no idea what he's doing or she's doing. Yeah, but generally I think I'm very much with you. Like, I just try to enjoy my life now, I don't want to wait until I'm retired to travel. I want to be able to travel the way I can travel now, where I'm, young and fit, and I try not to think too much about what comes after that. Something will always, work out. I'm pretty confident in that, so.
I definitely consider myself lucky. I mean, I was born into a family that supported me, financially and emotionally. And luck also brings you opportunities that you have to be ready to take. But, luck does, I think, play a big part in it.
I agree. I think we're very lucky that, we were born into a society and into families that were, free enough and supportive enough that we, offered us the resources that we now can be here. And obviously it still takes, as you say, you still gotta take these opportunities and make out of it, whatever you want it to be. But yeah, it's definitely much easier with a little bit of luck.
This is Mabel, the sailing cat. Ow! And if you want to follow our adventures, you can find us on Instagram at Captain and Cat, for more pictures of Mabel, mostly, because we're terrible at taking pictures. And this whole social media thing just doesn't really we're not very good at it, so
honestly, we're really boring to follow, but you can follow us anyways.